bridal training early, with strenuous dance practice and long...
Did you know more?
Tools from more than 100.
So she rushed it to get it there quicker, and then still...
On that, there's not much difference. Crocodiles have different shaped jaws.
Live in, and the people in the fields hurt us. That's why it hurts.
Artificial surfaces that bother
Something so...
Live on their own. John.
Forage.
Forage. Hunt.
October. Included will be the classic Merry Christmas Baby with blues legend Dr. John.
Merry Christmas, baby, yeah.
Ash looks like? Visit us now for Double Jeopardy with 2 daily doubles in these categories.
They're even interested in the...
Document.
Think about it, it's like...
Here.
Dad, why don't I look like the other children?
Guys on the water.
Journal for just 57. Bait over the...
That through your head, the better.
Break it.
Intention of returning.
I believe.
You touch my hand.
Check out Dottie and the boys at a Boston.
Oh, you're dying out. Where's the check you promised me? Give me the money before you die, you son of a... Ow, ugh. Oh, I'm upside down in the bear trap. That's why they voted the beaver trap. Oh, look at, we caught someone. We're going to eat him. He's going to be good. Wah, wah, wah. Wah, 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 wah. Oh, so... Oh, George Washington, yes, this is the revolution now. Yes, would you take a quarter? No, how about a nickel? The revolution. I'm president. And here we have, he's Joey there at the plate. Oh, he's chewing some tobacco there. He's chewing his tongue. What kind of count is that? What kind of, you know. And he's gonna be out. Oh. Hi, how are you? Yes, friend, you're such a whore. Yeah, I know. Oh, I got my bald head. Look at this, my bald head. Oh, okay, well, you sit as a bowling ball. Is that Kyle Pratt? Huh? Kyle, is that you? Today, there was a celebration in the world today when 2 people ate a car. Yes, they did. He's got these things over here. We just stuff them in there, and I'm trying to make the window work. We don't know what we're doing, but we'll tell you, we'll just push that in there. Yeah. That doesn't work. Use jelly beans. That works real good, but we got these things now, and just, what's this over here? America, your ship has come in. This is City Lights, City Streets. And I'm Mark. Meow, meow. Well, before I was a conservative, I ate people, yes. But then I became a conservative, and now it's $10 million deficit concerning... Hey, Ralph Nader. Yeah, there he is.
Congratulations. I hope to join you someday.
But there has been a question raised about where most of your stock is in a company called Cisco Systems, which, as Joshua Marshall wrote in Salon.com, the company in which Nader owns most of his stock, Cisco Systems, Inc., is a monopoly. Ralph, you said you would never own stock in a monopoly company. You do. Isn't that a little conflict here?
Well, first of all, this is a civil justice fund. The money means nothing to me except to support citizen projects, and that's where it goes. I spent over 80% of my funds over the last 30 years supporting consumer environmental causes, starting new groups, supporting foundations. So that's what it's really for. I do live very frugally because money means nothing to me except for that. Now, about Cisco. Cisco represents a number of policy positions, which I have opposed. Right. Silicon Valley positions, etc. You know, they want to bring in more talent from overseas in terms of the brain drain instead of paying American wages.
They're lobbying for it. You're lobbying against it.
Isn't that interesting? That's called the conflict against financial interest, which more of us should have. Number two, I don't think it's a monopoly in terms of violation of the antitrust laws. Federal Trade Commission looked into it. We've looked into it. This is not like Microsoft with their tying arrangements and their discriminatory practices.
You must have conjured something in your head for you to come out and call me a murderer of my child. Now, I want to hear 1 to 10.
I think you heard.
When did I write this ransom note? Before or after I killed
you wrote the ransom
note?
note.
No, you're the one theorizing here. You tell me.
You were in the house that night. And John, you can't say for certain.
It's circumstantial.
Yeah, and John, you can't say for certain who did or did not kill John Bonet because you have said you were asleep. You cannot say for certain because you weren't there.
I want to hear your theory, Steve. Let me ask you this. Are you prepared to state that Patsy killed John Bonet, that I covered it up, and that you can prove that in a court of law? Are you prepared to say that
I've written a book, and I stand by my book.
Your book said that.
My book stands on its own. I haven't heard this pedophile, kidnapper, murderer theory.
So you mean they're all options?
So you will say that in a court of law.
Certainly we considered options in this case.
What do you, when you're a detective, this fascinates me, do you guess as to motive when you're looking into a crime, like why was this child killed, for what purpose?
Certainly.
Okay. And in this case, you came to the conclusion that it was sort of in a rage?
Yeah, I don't think that there was any premeditation to this child being killed. You're still not answering my question.
What in our background did you find, and our background has been investigated for 3.5 years, what in our background did you find that would show that we were capable of this horrible crime?
You play right into it. I don't show that there's a motive in this case. I don't suggest that.
You didn't answer my question. What did you find in our background that would demonstrate that we were capable of this kind of horrible crime?
Well, I gave you a pass, John, unless you want to say otherwise. I don't think you were involved.
I'm asking
about,
you accused Patsy of murder, me of complicity.
What in my past
what in
have
Patsy's
you
past
seen that has ever indicated that I would be capable of doing something like this? Well, there's 11,000 parents that you state.
I'll ask you a question right back.
I don't want to question right back. I want to question.
Certainly, you suggest this great conspiracy.
Answer.
Involved.
Let me get a break. Let me get a break, and then we'll have to have more direct questions.
He never answers the question.
All right, we'll be right back with Steve Thomas. And
we did not make decisions in those.
In retrospect, was that a mistake?
No, not when I saw Linda Arndt go on national television, who was one of the detectives, and say, I saw it in John Ramsey's eyes on December 26th. He was the killer. And now we have her counterpart and colleague saying that Patsy's the killer.
They can't blame the cops when they're not there helping. You know, on one hand, they're screaming for the murder to be solved.
24 hours a day.
Patsy, you haven't answered this question. How, to this day, as we sit here tonight, how much time in the last 4 years have you spent in the Boulder Police Department with the detectives working this case?
I don't know, but I'll tell you that much.
Zero.
I have invited them.
Never gone to the Boulder Police Department.
Answer the question.
All right. He asked the fair question.
How many overtures have been made to them, including one on the table right now, for us to come and talk with them and bring our detectives and our investigators and share information and work together, put pride and prejudice aside, Mr.
You're making that offer to them now.
And work to find the killer of this child.
Are you making a commitment to go into the Boulder Police Department next week or next month and sit down for an unlimited amount of time to cooperate?
Why he's got a fair offer? Why not go to? He's not there. Why not go to the police department?
Here's what we've laid on the table. We have told Chief Beckner that we need them to help find this killer. They have absolute authority over this case, and that's not going to change. We've had investigators, seasoned investigators, collectively with over 500 homicides under their belt, who've been working on this case day in and day out. They have questions. They have...
Why don't you all get together?
We would love to.
So why don't you
Go down there next week?
Why not go there next
We'll
week
be,
with your...
if we can go there tomorrow with our investigators, sit down with their detectives, get all questions answered, we'll be there
Why
tomorrow.
would they not do this?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I'm
so
glad to hear
it's on the table. You would go to Boulder tomorrow with your private investigators, meet with all their detectives, and sit down for as long as it takes
Sit around
to
the
get through
table
this.
and let's get all the
So
questions.
that
They've got questions, we've got questions.
Boulder should say to this tomorrow morning, come aboard.
Well, it depends, because I hear a hidden caveat here that it...
What's the caveat?
If you're offering, I'm not there anymore, John. I'm a citizen who's concerned that you won't go into the police department and answer police
They're
questions.
offering to come with all their investigators, answer any questions, present their side of things.
It's June 1st tomorrow. When are you going to be at the police department?
Steve, it's not up to you. You're not in charge.
No, but they may be off. If the Boulder police called you and said, come down next Monday, you come.
With our investigators,
They would come.
their detectives around the table, you bet.
Okay, we'll be right back with more. Don't go away.
Bringing you the world for 20 years. This is CNN.
The return of democracy in Haiti may not be far off. In New York, ousted Haitian President Jean-Bertrand Aristide has arrived at Governor's Island, where an agreement returning him to power awaits his signature.
Haiti had been run for years by military generals. The UN had tried to
I'm
break...
hopeful that that DNA belongs to the killer.
We'll be right back.
Back and look at the big picture in the circumstantial case. Everybody wishes it was a smoke. Everybody at this table wishes it was a smoking gun, no doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt case. It's not. It's a circumstantial case.
Yeah. Well, all cases where there's no witness.
Well, not necessarily if there's ballistics or DNA evidence or a bloody fingerprint.
But you are content that if they meet with everybody and meets with Boulder Police, as came up here tonight, that's going to be a step forward.
It's a start. I'm certainly not saying anybody's going to be exonerated.
Do you think it's possible, Patsy, that you know the killer? I mean, not know who it is, but that this may be someone who knows you.
I don't know. That's been speculated for 3 years.
Speculate. What do you think?
You know.
I mean, you must think about it all the time.
I think about it all the time, every day, every waking moment. He could have done this to my daughter.
John, do you think that you said it might be someone mad at you?
Any possibility, it's a horrible thought to think that someone would be angry with me enough to kill my daughter. But I'm not ruling out anything.
Think you're ever going to go away? Even if they didn't, you have to admit this is a terrible tragedy.
Well, at this point, absent a confession, the killer has to confess in this case because it's arguable that Patsy could never be convicted because reasonable doubt and John thought Patsy could not be convicted because of reasonable doubt, but if he could not be convicted either, it would be reasonable doubt. This case requires
This is where the truth lies. I'm just a downwinder. City Lights, City Trees presents Where the Truth Lies. Good boy. I ain't no bad boy. You can find me somewhere in between. Burned out cinder. I'm just a downwinder. I got that burned out blue. Like a burned out cinder, I'm just a downwinder. Nobody knows just how blue I am. Like a burned out cinder, I'm just a downwinder. And nobody knows the mess we're in today. The trees are dying, Mother Nature's crying. The ocean's still blue, green no more, no more. Ozone's depleted. Our rights are defeated. In the garbage in Washington, up along the shore. Out cinder, I'm just cinder. Will we survive? Nobody knows for sure. Heaven on earth, heaven on earth. Don't you think that we should have it first? Oh, heaven on earth, what it should be. But it don't look like it'll happen to me. It don't look like it'll happen to me. There must be lights burning brighter somewhere. Got to be birds flying high herds in the sky. Blue of a better life. I'm true. You must have peace and understanding sometimes. A promise. Dream and the has the strength to dream. He can. A trembling question.
Invited him.
Sure that the answer.
No sour grapes here because I am a patient man. Eventually, it all comes out in the wash. And if it doesn't come out in the wash,
while I can stand, walk, while I can
comes out. Not in the wash, but rather it comes out in Washington, D.C. at the Smithsonian Institute on formal display. Regards, Mark Lord, and this is City Light City.
Just trying to get the lighting right. Be right back. Here I am in historic Plymouth, Massachusetts, or any town in America.
And I'm Mark Lord, and this is City Lights, City Streets, where the truth lies. Put it on the ballot. Who would know more about these crucial issues than us? Put it on the ballot. Oh, Congress. Congress knows better than us, though, don't they? Yeah, that's why they vote for us. They vote the crucial issues of the day because they know better than us. Yeah, like they know better than us. That's why we don't have socialized medicine, because Congress decided that the American people don't want socialized medicine, you see, because they vote for us, see. So Congress votes our conscience, supposedly what we want, what we need to be free in this democracy. And Congress knows better than us, so they vote for us. Heck, I know if that vote went to the public on a public, if the issue of medical care, free medical care, went to the public vote, I'm sure the public would say, no, we don't want it. No, we like paying $2,500 for a broken leg. We like paying the hospital $10 for an aspirin. We like spending $200 to bring our child to get a checkup. Don't take that away from us, Congress. We like that. And we want to thank you as a citizen of the United States of America. I want to thank Congress for voting in America's favor against free medical care, because they know what's best for us. There's no reason to put that on the ballot. Do you want free medical care? Because the American people don't want free medical care. No, we don't want that. No, that would be awful. You know, we like breaking our leg, hobbling to the bank, and drawing out $2,500 to pay a doctor for a broken leg, which took him 20 minutes to set. That's okay. We don't mind paying a doctor $300 a minute. No, we like that because Congress decided that they're going to vote for us, and they say no socialized medicine because the American people don't want it. Because that's true, they do vote in our favor, don't they? So what's the sense of putting that issue of free medical care on the ballot? Congress can take care of it for us, yeah. Just like whether or not you want seatbelts on school buses. We don't care if our children fly out the windows. We don't care if every other vehicle that's on the highways and byways from sea to shining sea is required to have a restraining safety belt on for safety for you and me. But when they get on the school buses, the children are the ones that are going to go flying through the windows. And you know something? That's Congress's decree. Congress doesn't want seatbelts on school buses because they're voting for us, the parents. Congress says the people don't want seatbelts on school buses. The people don't want their children safe on the highways and byways. There are 10,000 injuries on school buses every year. Broken arms, broken wrists, whiplash, concussions, all because there are no seatbelt restraints. But you know something? Congress seems to think they know what the American people are thinking. They don't want seatbelts on school buses because they think that we don't want seatbelts on school buses. And you know something? I think they might be right. Why should we put it on a national ballot? Do you want seatbelts on school buses? Because Congress seems to think that we don't want them because they vote our conscience. Well, maybe they're right, yeah. I bet if seatbelts, whether you want seatbelts on school buses or not, was put on a national ballot, I think the majority of the people would say no, they don't want them, no, because Congress seems to think so. And this is Mark Lord, and this is City Lights, City Streets, where the truth lies. I say put everything on the ballot. Isn't that the democratic way? Put everything on the ballot. You don't want to put, you know, whether or not you want cigarette. Thanks. Come on, say hello. And this is Mark Lord, and this is City Lights, City Streets. You know, I say put it on the ballot. Put everything on the ballot. Of course we want medical care free. Is this on? Of course we want seatbelts on school buses. Is this on? Congress never voted in the Americana's favor. I'm afraid that they vote for themselves, their families, associates, and big business could care less about the public, from the local level to the state level to the federal level. In any town, Massachusetts, or any town, America, from sea to shining sea, Purple Mountain Majesty, why don't we put on the ballot whether or not you want ingredients on cigarettes, so that our children can see what the deadly chemicals that are in cigarettes. I choose to smoke because I'm an adult, but kids, if they had that package with the 4,000 compounds that are in cigarettes, like jet fuel and benzene, I have the list at home, 4,000 compounds, evil substances in it. But I choose to do this. That's your choice, but children don't have a choice because they're not told the information. And when you withhold information, you withhold truth. And if you withhold truth, then we no longer want you as our representatives and our congressmen and senators and presidents of the United States of America. Put it on the ballot. But Congress seems to think that they know the pulse of America. Do you want a 75-mile-a-gallon carburetor that the auto industry has already designed? Don't you want that on vehicles mandated? But Congress seems to think, oh, the American people don't want to drive 75 miles on a gallon of gasoline. They vote our conscience. Why not put it on the ballot? Well, if they put it on the ballot, Congress seems to know what we think. From state representatives to senators to presidents to congressmen to any other scallywag, bureaucrat, taxocrat, rat to tat, tit for tat. Put it on the ballot. Of course, you know, to get 75 miles to the gallon of gasoline with this carburetor that the auto industry has invented 25, 30 years ago, to mandate that, Congress knows what the American people want, and that's why they vote against it time and time again. They know the American people want to spend $2.50 for a gallon of gasoline that only gets 18 miles to the gallon. I think that the Congress knows best. I don't think that we should ever put that on the ballot, because the 176 million registered voters in America would go to the polls and they would vote against the 70-mile-a-gallon carburetor on vehicles. They would vote against it because we like spending our hard-earned money, $2.50 a gallon. We like getting only 18 miles to the gallon. We like polluting the ozone layer more and more. We don't want 75 miles to the gallon. No, because if we had 75 miles to the gallon in our vehicles, then I think a lot more people would drive up to Congress and tell them to get the hell out. Put it on the ballot. You see how they work? Why not put it on the ballot? Bring the government up to the 21st century. Put it on the ballot. But Congress knows best because we vote them in to vote for us. Well, why don't we just vote for ourselves and vote on these crucial issues? Why should we waste billions of American tax dollars, time, energy, pollute our air, land, water, and food supply when we can vote on these crucial issues ourselves? We got to the polls, didn't we? But somehow we're brainwashed by the propagandist, political blue-suited dandies who have nothing better to do than to strut around their stuff like roosters and cocks, fighting for their rights, fighting for their families' rights, associates in big business, and could care less about the American public. It's time we take it back, America, from sea to shining sea, Purple Mountain Majesty, from the local level to the state level to the federal level. Put it on the ballot. Congress doesn't know the conscience of America. Only Americans do. And I asked every red-blooded American, blue-blooded American in this land, from sea to shining sea, from Kalamazoo to Tennessee Wazoo. I said, do you want these issues on the ballot? Do you want nuclear power in your town, or do you want wind power? Put it on the ballot. Don't let the bureaucrats decide our fate. All they're doing is stuffing in their pockets. They've already got out of the racing gate, and they're running to town to put those gold bullion in the banks, Hank. It stinks, it stank, it ranks. I say we must bring the ranks together, put it on the ballot. Put all crucial issues on the ballot. That's why I ran for state representative. Put it on the ballot. That's why I'm running for state representative. Write me in. I'll get things on the ballot, and I'll get every registered voter's signature on a petition in Massachusetts and bring it up to Governor Romney and say, guess what? Every registered voter signed this petition, and we want these issues on the ballot. Do you want nuclear power? Put it on the ballot. Do you want that 70 mile per mile gallon of gasoline carburetor on vehicles? Put it on the ballot. How can they refuse all the registered voters in Massachusetts on a petition? Then we'll really see if the governor is for the people and by the people. And if he ever does deny it, there's going to be trouble. There's going to be rubble. And I don't mean Barney. That's why you got to get me elected in a position of power, because I would do that. What politician stands in front of you, my fellow Americans, and makes such a statement that they would spend their life, their time, their money, and their energy getting every registered voter's signature in Massachusetts to put things on the ballot? We need to put it on the ballot. Do you want marijuana legalized? Whether I agree with it or not, put it on the ballot. Do you want drugs legalized? Put it on the ballot. Do you want prostitution legalized? Put it on the ballot. Do you want gambling in every town, in every municipality? Put it on the ballot. Do you want a flat tax? Put it on the ballot. I ran for selectman in the town of Plymouth. I got 1,100 votes. You had to fill out a financial disclosure form, which I raised zero money. And I had to sign a financial report stating I made zero money 30 days after the election. 25 days after the election, I filed with the town clerk, Larry Pizer. I filed with the town clerk, Larry Pizer, my financial statement, whereas I made zero. And I got a letter in the mail the other day, and they said, Mark, you didn't pass in your papers. And I go, what are you talking about, Larry? You were right there when I said, here it is. And then he gave me some lame brain story where it was misplaced. They misplaced my documents. You see how it is, America? They try to bait you, they try to harass you. Well, we're not going to be baited and we're not going to be harassed anymore. We're going to the White House. American candidate, Mark Lord, I cannot be bought. There's a mother of two in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and she's got a kid who has a chronic illness. And she lives in an apartment complex. And they were exterminated from mice, and she still has mice now. They won't move her, and they won't exterminate again. Anyway, you don't want to exterminate with a child who has respiratory problems, intestinal problems, chronic illnesses. This child has a chronic illness and any other problem, like residue from pesticides, from getting rid of the rodents in that complex, in that apartment dwelling, is going to irritate and exasperate the condition and make it worse. Do we want our children to be worsened with chronic illnesses? Why don't they move her into another housing unit? And we're going to talk to the health department in the next coming weeks, and we're going to catch the mice in mice traps, and we're going to bring the dead mice in the mouse traps to the health department and say, here you go, this is what you didn't do. You didn't exterminate the mice. They're back, and it's not because she's dirty. It's because the whole apartment building's infested. Get it yet? And we're going to fight for her rights, and we're sick and tired of her. We're not going to take it anymore. If you got a problem, you can write me at P.O. Box 1503, Manamet, Massachusetts, 02345. We got to take it back from the political hacks, from the local level to the state level to the federal level. Departments are not doing their jobs. I wrote to Captain Chandler of the Plymouth Police Department. I have yet to receive a response to my letter where we need stop signs in a neighborhood in Manamet. The stop signs, there are four-way crosses, and there's demolition derby everywhere you go. Four-way crossroads. with no visibility. Trees are blocking the intersection with no stop signs. But yet in the ponds of Plymouth, when there's hundreds of yards of visibility, they got stop signs every which way. Is it better to have visibility or no visibility? It's better to have stop signs at every crossroads, especially when there's no visibility. But yet in the ponds of Plymouth, there's hundreds and hundreds of yards of visibility, and they got a stop sign everywhere. And he says it's a good idea, and he recommends that they do it. I don't think we should just recommend that we do it, Captain Chandler. I don't think we should just recommend it. I think we need to do it. Because if it was in your neighborhood and your wife had a head-on collision, you certainly have stop signs in your neighborhood. And stop signs with, and no stop signs with no visibility at the crossroads is worse. Of course you need visibility at stop signs. That's the best thing, and stop signs. But we'll get back to you on that. And I requested there was supposed to be a composite photo drawing done of the crowbar attacker. In Nelson Park, there was a crowbar attacker that hit a jogger in the head and almost killed her. She's in critical condition. We want a composite sketch so I can put it on my show so we can catch this scoundrel. But the police have yet to come forth with a composite sketch. They say they're doing all they can. What do you think, my fellow Americans? Are they doing all they can? Let's get that sketch. I requested that, and I'm going to get back to you probably on Friday, this Friday. Today is Wednesday, the 16th of June, 2004, and I'm going to get back to you on that. I'm Mark Lord, and this is City Light City Streets Presents Where the Truth Lies. I'm running for state representative as a write-in candidate. You can write me in. There'll be Vinnie DiMacedo's name there, and then you'll see write-in under it. Write me in, Mark Lord. We'll get things on the ballot. We'll get a ventilation system at Nathaniel Morton Elementary School where kids are getting sickened. For life, chronic illnesses for life, because there's no ventilation system in there. And at a hedge school, there's this little girl who has a chronic illness as well from overdosing on antibiotics because she's at hedge school, which has bad air. And when she goes to the doctor, the symptoms of bad air resemble the flu. So the doctor, the pediatrician, who doesn't even realize there's bad air in the schools and is mocking the flu, when in fact it isn't the flu, it's the bad air, gives this child antibiotics over and over again and creates a disease for this child because the doctor is unaware of the bad air. Do you get it yet? Nobody cares. Put it on the ballot. Go get yourself a sandwich, comrade. Make sure your guns are loaded, comrade. Make sure your doors are locked, your windows are locked. Don't let the fascists come in your home. That's how it started in Germany. Communication in schools, kids should be able to talk. But when they tell kids to stop talking, that's the ultimate state of control. You need to talk. That's the basis of education, communication, lectures, dialogue, debate. That's how you get things done in America, not shut up and go to the end of the line, take a number and go to the end of the line. We're sick and tired of that. We're sick and tired of the bureaucracy destroying our lives with paperwork that they lose and blame us. And then we got to repay the dues. No wonder why we got the blues, but it's time to get in the red. It's time to fly over the rainbow to get what is our due by putting everything on the ballot. Put it on the ballot. At the local level, they want to start a farmer's market downtown, and the selectmen are all saying, well, I think it's a good idea, but we have to study it more. What's there to study, you porcupines?
if you had your way, which you do, you got your porcupines, they think it's a good idea to have a fresh fruit market, locally grown vegetables and fruits to help the locals, to help the people that live here and stuff. Of course it's a good thing. Get with it, you ding-dongs. We need to say so long to them. But you had your chance to get me in a selectman, and then I would have raised holy hell. And hell is holy, my fellow Americans. You must raise Cain if you are able. And I say, let's bring everything to the table. Put it on the ballot. I'm Mark Lord. I'm not a movie critic, Gene Shalit. I just want to buy fresh shallots down at the market, farmer's market. We don't need no selectmen telling us that the fruit and vegetables are good for us. Of course they're good for us. Get with the program. Get it yet, folks? Write me in, Mark Lord, state representative. I'll get things on the ballot. I'll work 24/7. I'll call up every single resident in Massachusetts registered voter to have them sign a petition to put these crucial issues on the ballot. Do we want free medical care in Massachusetts? We'll start there. Yes, we do. Congress votes it down every time, but they vote for us? I don't think so. Put it on the ballot. And I'm Mark Lord, and this is City Lights, City Streets where the truth lies. American candidate Mark Lord. I cannot be bought. We're going to be hosting a concert down on the waterfront on June 26th, which is a Saturday, I believe, June 26th. Come on down. There's going to be young people. It's going to be a young people concert. And why don't you come on down? I'm going to be the host. So I'll see you there June 26th at the waterfront, okay? All right, peace always, and remember, put it on the ballot.
They could tell the moment that they saw him, he was nothing but the trouble-making kind. His hair was much too long, and his motley group of friends had nothing but rebellion on their mind. He rejected the establishment completely. Some say he never held a job. He just goes from town to town, stirring up the young folk till they're nothing but a disrespectful mob. I know for sure he's never joined the army, like many of us good folk have done. the moment that they saw him. He was nothing but the troublemaking kind. His hair was much too long, and his motley group of friends had nothing but rebellion on their mind. He rejected the establishment completely. Some say he never held a job. He just goes from town to town, stirring up the young folk, telling nothing but a disrespectful mob. I know for sure he's never joined the army, like many of us good folk have done. No, he'd rather wear his sandals in a flower than fight the battle we think must be won.
Passion.
They arrested him last week and found him guilty. Sentenced him to die, but that's no loss. On Friday they'll take him up to Calvary and nail that good for nothing to the cross. Yeah, he's rejected their establishment completely. Some say he never held a job. He just goes from town to town, stirring up the young folk, telling nothing but a discontented mob. I know for sure he's never joined the army, like many of us good folk have done. No, he'd rather wear his sandals in a flower than fight the battle we think must be won.
And this is City Lights, City Streets Prime Cut. And we got Vincent Malozzi singing City Lights, City Streets.
See the people in the city,
I'm running for selectman.
light shining down, walking down those city streets, looking for their hometown. There's a story we all carry, waiting for the dream to come. There's a reason we all shiver in the light of the morning sun. City lights and city streets, walking on American ground. City lights and city streets, living in this country town. There's a girl looking for her dreams in the city. She's walking the streets at night.
Hi, Michelle.
She's a rebel, she's a hometown girl. She's longing for the city life. But the change we're all waiting for, it's somewhere inside. Let the people in this land of plenty live their dreams tonight. City lights and city streets, walking on American ground. City lights and city streets, living in this country town. And the people, they say I'm crazy, 'cause I'm rolling from town to town. I keep looking for a place to lay down, but I keep on searching, looking for my home. I know it's out there city boys.
Wait for the drums land.
Are they that old though?
I don't know about America. You're gonna have to wait till the veterans come. Yeah. Let me get some nice shots.
They say Joe, we're all stopped up over here. Well, where do we get going? Oh, I'm gonna die any minute now. Oh, here you go.
So this is Mark, and this is City Lights, City Streets, and we're at the parade. It's July 4th, 2000. We're in Plymouth, Massachusetts, celebrating America's independence. Yeah. Entergy. Where's our potassium iodide? You know what potassium iodide is? That's the pill that you take in case there's a nuclear radiation leak. It prevents radioactive iodide from getting in your thyroid gland and killing you. The children that took potassium iodide at Chernobyl didn't get thyroid cancer. The kids that didn't take potassium iodide at Chernobyl did get thyroid cancer and died. And I said earlier, in Germany, they have outlawed all nuclear power plants in Germany. I think the world should do the same, don't you? I wrote a letter to Senator Murray and asked her how we could get that on the ballot. And you needed 60,000
Signatures for that. 60,000 signatures. You believe it?
60,000 signatures. But every country in the world has potassium iodide. Why not America? But I have that number, and if you want that number to get it, you can call me. Should I give my number? Yeah, I'll give you my address. Yeah. We don't need all your fruitcakes calling me. Don't watch the show if you don't like it. Turn it off, you nitwit. You can call me, you can write me at P.O. Box 1503, Manamet, Massachusetts, 02345, and we're at Plymouth Rock, where it all started. And it's July, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait a minute, I left with an index finger. Yeah. That wasn't the offensive one. Don't worry about it. Boy, it's slow moving, huh?
Well, they gotta get rid of that viewing stand.
Absolutely. That's a good point. I'm gonna say that right now. You know, the parade's for the people, see? But you know, all the politicians and stuff, they get the viewing stand and leave us out in the lurch. Isn't a parade for people? Huh? Not for politicians who don't listen to our wishes anyway. Why should they get front row seat? Give it to the people. I'm gonna eat my lemon now. I got it half peeled. Yeah. Can I fuss up with that? Like that? Thought I might have had an orange in there. Go get yourself a sandwich or something, okay? Go get that, you know, that Band-Aid meat, bologna meat, whatever that stuff is called, that mangled monkey stuff, you know? Go ahead. The USDA came out and said that to prevent illness from food-borne bacteria, you should boil. Listen to this. This is the USDA. They said that you should boil all your cold cuts before you eat them. All right? What are you doing? They radiate beef and pork and chicken now, so it has a longer shelf life. Yeah, radiation on your food now. And genetically cloned food, where they take a cell from a fish and combine it with a strawberry, so that it has a longer shelf life. That's what they're doing. So when you eat a strawberry, a genetically cloned strawberry, you actually eat fish genes with it. What's this?
Maybe I can convince them to come.
It's all right, you don't have to die. So I guess, America, you've come a long way since 1776, huh? More like, instead of advancement, it's kind of retreated, like we've gone backwards with our freedoms. More and more of our freedoms are being taken away. The reason why the Pilgrims came to Plymouth, Massachusetts was to escape religious persecution, high taxes, and strict government rule. Too bad we couldn't get on a boat and go back to England, huh? Would that be good? People say, Mark, if you don't like America, then you should leave and go to another country. But you know something, you have to, I love America. That's why I'm bringing up all these things. Have to shut down now. Wait for some good stuff. Ocean spray. Ocean spray. They are the biggest abusers of pesticides on their crops. Cranberry pods. What happens when that happens? It goes into the groundwater, right? Now you know where you want to get cancer? It's in the water. Hello, wake up. Clean up the water. It's not important to have more taxes, more buildings, more monuments. You need clean air and water. We're going to be on every Wednesday night now, Monday and Wednesday night at 10 p.m. If it's not on, call Pack TV, call Pack TV and ask them why it isn't on. I just found this flyer over here. It says wrestling returns to Plymouth Saturday, July 8th. Bell time is 7:30 p.m. at the Plymouth National Guard. Former heavyweight champion wrestler Yokozuna is on. Yeah. I wonder if that's Rich's show, you know? You know, I had the camera off when Tom O'Brien, the representative Tom O'Brien, came by with his car, and he was in front of it waving, and they were pushing his car behind him. We're just gonna let it roll. We're just gonna let it roll. We're waiting for the veterans. I want to say something about the veterans, but you know something? They may not be here for a while. And everybody loves a parade except me. So I'm going to kind of close this up pretty soon. And who's that, Sonny and Bob? Monday morning was a good one.
I just told him about that. Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, man. I just had a gentleman that said he saw my show the day of morning with the Indians and stuff, and he said it was a good show, yeah. Like I was saying, just bury the hatchet. The Pilgrims should get together with the Indians, go up on Coles Hill, bring a hatchet and a musket, and bury the hatchet and musket. After 350 years, let's have some peace. I blow smoke signals myself, see? Peace. Love. Equality. Cancer. Hey, Mark. Okay, did you see me last night? I'm on Wednesday night. This Wednesday, I've seen you before. I'm just looking around and This gentleman was touched by my show. All right, America, I'm not going to wait for the veterans, okay? Because who knows, they might have died up there. They're old, and they should be respected. But you know something? The federal government is trying to take away $50 million from the disabled vets. I talked to some veterans who need $300 or more for heart pills. And they won't be able to buy their heart pills to keep them alive if they cut this budget. The people that fought for this country are fighting another war. See this flag? The red stripes in this flag represent the veterans' blood that was spilled over all the wars. But you're going to have to stain the whole thing red with the blood of the children from Waco, Texas. And these stars in your flag, America, are bullet holes. You're going to have to shoot more bullet holes in it, 41 to be exact, where an African immigrant in New York City was shot 41 times in the vestibule of his apartment building, unarmed. 3 police officers shot him 41 times. 10 shots when he was on the ground, and those police officers were found not guilty. Welcome to America. So just remember, America. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Great. This is going to be on Monday night.
Okay.
You want to say something to the people? We're at the parade.
How you doing? Thanks for coming.
Good man.
Happy 4th of July.
All right, thanks.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Has anybody got a Sandy wipe?
Oh, man. The polls are intimidated by the cameras. You gotta understand that.
Well, you know something. What's his name?
Am I talking about
John Trump? What the hell is that guy's name? Donald Trump. He doesn't shake anybody's hand because as a politician goes around, he's spreading bacteria everywhere. Yeah.
You get elected with bacteria.
You have bacteria in your hands.
This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island. From the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island.
We're gonna have so many fire trucks in the parade. I think we'd be just as good if we had 2 or 3.
They don't need to put those sirens on. That's bad for your ears. They were singing this. They just, what they're doing now is they're censoring me now. Yeah. They were singing that this land is your land. This land is your land for you and me. But you better wear a bulletproof vest if you're a person of color. I didn't say that. Abraham Lincoln did. Thomas Jefferson, he wrote the Constitution. Yeah, the Constitution, yeah. That's what everything is based on, right? And he says that we need guns. Why do we need guns? He says to protect ourselves from the government. That's why it's in there, not to shoot squirrels. Thomas Jefferson also said in the Constitution that freedom from religion, not of religion, freedom from religion. He didn't want anybody's religion put on him because Thomas Jefferson, his God was the planet Earth. That's what he believed, that God was Mother Nature. So it's freedom from religion, not of religion. I don't know what the problem is with all these wars and stuff. People can't get along. Huh? We're waiting for the veterans, yeah.
Is that a politician?
I'm a trolley.
No problem. Hold on, yeah. Somebody take a picture of you.
Go ahead, Buffy even said it's okay.
He doesn't want to ride? He doesn't want to ride? Oh, let me see that. Oh. Are you a part?
Uh-oh.
You want to come on and say something? You'll be on Monday night. Who are those clowns? I wonder what office they're running for.
You want what?
The clowns. I wonder what kind of political office are they running for? The clowns.
I didn't talk to him that much.
Oh. That's pretty cool, huh? As I was saying, if you had any complaints about politicians, teachers, your boss, friends, neighbors, you can call me, or write me rather. We don't need you nitwits calling me. But you can write me at P.O. Box 1503, Manamet, Massachusetts, and we'll make make a story out of it, okay? If your kid's being mistreated in school by bullies and the teachers aren't listening, write me, P.O. Box 1503, Manamet, Massachusetts, or call Pack TV and get my number. Oh, but Vinny DiMacedo, he's a nice guy, Vinny DiMacedo and Tom O'Brien. Yeah, he's a nice guy. I read in the paper the other day that Vinny DiMacedo and Tom O'Brien, representatives, voted against beaver traps. Yeah, they voted against these certain beaver traps, yeah. But they don't pass a law in Plymouth that we can get our potassium iodide in case there's a nuclear power radiation leak. Potassium iodide is the pill that is the basic ingredient in salt in concentrated form that when taken when there's a nuclear radiation leak prevents your thyroid from getting cancer. But they vote the beaver trap? No on the beaver trap. The next thing you'll know, they'll vote yes, potassium iodide, but for the beavers. guess you can fool. Let's see, how does this story go? We'll let you listen to the fire engine, all right? Now you tell me, how does a politician get an advertisement on a public vehicle? How does that work? Oh, they got me. You know, I talked about the police shooting that innocent bystander in New York City 41 times. 41 times, all right? Now, I'm gonna count 41 times, all right? And now you'll know how many that is, okay? This is how many times they shot him. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Count along. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41. That's how many times they shot that poor bastard. But you know, most of the police are good. 99% of them are good. Would you want to strap a gun to your body and go out and fight criminals at 3 o'clock in the morning? I don't think so, but the police are really good. It's just a few, you know, a little whacked out, that's all. But they were found not guilty, by the way. So when you come over to America's golden shores, from Purple Mountain Majesty, from sea to shining sea, bring a bulletproof vest. You can get a bulletproof vest at Joe's Bulletproof Vest, 999-222-4411. Okay, for the best in vests. Ain't that the truth though? 41 times they shoot him? When he was on the ground, I shot him 10 more times. You know, I had a guy over here to tell me that, Mark, if you stay on the air long enough, you're going to piss everybody off, because eventually the people that like you are going to hate you because you're going to hit on a subject that they don't like. Too bad. These are not my opinions anyway. These are the opinions of the American people. Thomas Jefferson, the writer of the Constitution. Yeah. He said we have the right to bear arms. Not to shoot squirrels or to hunt, but to protect ourselves from the government. Waco, Texas, 25 innocent children burned alive. They could have waited him out. Instead, and then they have this big committee, and then they say, oh, they weren't at fault, that David Koresh burned his own self down. Yeah, right. We're just gonna let it roll. Maybe it'll be a 2-hour show, probably, yeah. I don't have a watch. We're gonna shut down now so I can think of some more things to say, okay? I'll be back in a minute. Go get yourself some tainted beef. I just want to take this moment to say that nothing is said with hate. It's all for the love of America. Let's get that potassium iodide in Plymouth. Forget about the beavers. At Jordan Hospital. At Jordan Hospital, it was reported that the nurses and doctors weren't washing their hands. That was reported at the Old Colony Memorial, I believe. Imagine that in this day and age. Medical people are not washing their hands. No, I gotta pack up now because it's gonna start raining. I don't want to get caught in the rain, okay? So bye. See me Monday and Wednesday night, 10 p.m., Channel 3, Plymouth, Massachusetts. And write to me at P.O. Box 1503, Minimet, Massachusetts, 02345. I'm Mark. This is City Lights, City Streets.
That's a guy.
And their own engineers were not allowed to do the work. You know, most of the new safety features that have come on cars in the last 30 years were developed. Steering columns, you know, that was patented in 1912 or so. Stronger door latches, no big deal. The airbag was developed in the early 1950s. That's the degree to which the talent in this country, scientific engineering, is suppressed by these pinhead corporate executives up there at the top. But you know, when we stopped growing up corporate regarding automobile safety, fuel efficiency, and emission controls in the late 60s and early 70s, what do you think happened? When the civic forces moved in, look what happened. Let me tell you, motor vehicles have a long way to go. But compared to the 60s, look what happened. The death rate on the motor vehicle highways in 1966 was 5.6 fatalities for every 100 million vehicle miles traveled. And last year, it was down to 1.6 fatalities per 100 million vehicle miles traveled. And that's millions. Those are millions of American casualties prevented, deaths, injuries, family anguish, lost hopes prevented. And it spilled over to other countries as well. There's much less carbon monoxide. You think those members of Congress did the right thing then because one solitary young lawyer went up there? No, it's when you found out about it. You found out how you were being ripped off, shortchanged, how your friends and some members of your family, your children, were killed in totally needless ways because cars were not crash-worthy to protect people. That's when the politicians who had their finger to the wind felt the wind, and we got to give them more wind. Thank you. Now, just in case some people are wondering about the dominant role that we're giving corporate power in this country, let me refer them to an article written in a book published in 1959 by William Gossett, then Vice President of Ford Motor Company and later President of the American Bar Association, when he called the modern corporation the dominant institution in our society. The dominant institution. Now, you cannot have that be the dominant institution in our society. The dominant institution of our society should be democratic institutions run by a deliberative democracy of, by, and for the people. Those are the dominant. Remember, we create these corporations through corporate charters. Our state governments create them. Without corporate charters created by the state governments, none of these corporations would exist. And back in 100 years ago or so, 150, 200 years ago, our forebears looked at the charter not just as the creator of these corporations, but an accountability mechanism. Sometimes they pulled the charter. Sometimes they put the companies on probation. Sometimes they gave these charters 10 years duration, renewable on good behavior. So let's recover our lost knowledge. Let's recover our history. And let's say that if corporate charters could be conditioned on good behavior when they're much smaller and with less potential harm because of more modest technology in the 19th century. Clearly, we now have to have a national debate on corporations as persons under our law or whether they should be artificial entities under our law. Corporations... And let me say that corporations as artificial entities can never, in a vibrant democracy, be allowed to have equal constitutional power with real people. Thank you. Just as our law does to crooked labor unions that are placed in trusteeships and the leader removed to rehabilitate the labor union, why doesn't our law also establish a trusteeship for criminal or misbehaving or harmful corporations and remove their leadership and rehabilitate them as well? Thank you. Now, There is a rather poignant area of corporate abuse that I never thought I would ever see or describe. There used to be a time in our country when businesses would never sell directly to little children, other than maybe bubble gum. They never bypassed the parents. They never thought to sell directly and undermine the authority of parents. That's all gone now. Massive merchandising strategies, beam on 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. And you know it, parents know it, it's going into our schools, it's going into homes, and with more and more parents commuting longer, being absent from the home, the children are being delivered to these corporate hucksters. Not just television, not just video, not just internet, but all kinds of often harmful products. And the messages are basically threefold by too many of these corporate miscreants. And that is, one, violence is a solution to life's problems. Just look at the devastating, gruesome, sadistic cartoons, for example. And second, low-grade sensuality, from junk food to pornography, is conveyed to them. And third, addiction as a way of life, trying to turn these young children into gazers, into spectators. The average is now 30 hours a week for preteen youngsters. And is it any wonder that they're registering, these youngsters are registering as being more obese and more out of shape than any youngster since records were kept in 1900? Is it any surprise that their attention spans have been shrunken so that their vocabularies often are down to 30 or 40 words? Is it any wonder that they don't have the pace to listen to a paragraph in school or to go to school without seeming incredibly agitated? Is it any wonder that these children are spending less time with their siblings and their children, neighbors, and their parents? Children today spend less time with adults than any generation in history. And there's a penalty to be paid for that. Now, the corporations are not all responsible for that. The way our economy is designed, the way we have to spend so much time going from school to work and from home to work. But I must say, these corporations are taking exquisite and technological advantage of these children. They can even be compared to electronic child molesters. And we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility as we connect civic movements with political movements. We have a responsibility to prepare the next generation to become literate, self-renewing, effective citizens for a deliberative democracy. Instead, this commercial traffic makes them even more vulnerable to the streets. So offensive are these intrusions to the basic norms of nurturing a wholesome childhood that people, conservatives and liberals alike, are joining together to protest, demand restraints, and encourage a wider association of adults, including retired adults, with children. There are good reasons why every major religion in the world has warned against giving excessive power to the commercial interest, to the profiteering interest, because it is so singularly focused on its goal, which has no boundaries, that it runs roughshod over major value systems that spell a civilized society. The question is, how badly do we want a just and decent society? A society that raises our expectation levels about ourselves and our community. How badly do we really want it? This is the question. It's one thing to know. It's one thing to know. Yes, well, I will give you a chance in a few minutes to prove your point. First, a quick tour around America in the last 3 months to give you an idea of what I mean when I say that the best political campaigns are the ones who search out civic groups that pursue injustice. In Toledo, Ohio, we joined with members of a community of some 80 householders and 16 small businesses whose property was taken by the city under threat of eminent domain to provide Daimler Chrysler with a landscaping area. Already the cowed city had given Chrysler ample acreage for its expanded Jeep plant. The city of Toledo agreed to clear the land free for the giant company, absorbed any environmental liabilities. It gave Daimler Chrysler a tax holiday of about 10 years as part of a nearly $300 million package of federal, state, and local subsidies. The auto company got the additional land it wanted for its shrubbery. And a long-time cohesive neighborhood was utterly demolished, just like Detroit's Pole Town was in the 1980s. And out of that rubble of a community came a World War II veteran when we visited. And he said, with eloquent simplicity, I fought the fascists in World War II, and I come back to my country, and near my retirement, I see that my home taken away from me and demolished. Never thought that this would ever happen in America. Well, let me tell you, we have filed a constitutional lawsuit against the city of Toledo and Daimler Chrysler to make sure it doesn't happen. By the way, Daimler Chrysler had $20 billion in cash in the bank at that time. In Madison, Wisconsin, we marched with workers picketing for a livable wage. They were working for an independent contractor who provided services for the University of Wisconsin. In Atlanta, we stood in solidarity with a large homeless shelter in the downtown business district, where homeless people are not supposed to be seen. The city, accordingly, has not given the shelter a kitchen permit for 2 years. In Nashville, Tennessee, I met Tom Burrell, now running for the U.S. Senate on the Green Party. Mr. Burrell returned from Vietnam years ago to work in the auto industry in Michigan. After a number of years, he came home to Tennessee to farm a large tract of land. There he learned about the shocking state of black farmers in America, a mere shred of a percentage of the number of black farmers that once worked the land in the 1920s. These farmers were dispossessed of most of their land and forced to give up their farms, in no small part to the blatantly discriminatory behavior by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which is now offering to make inadequate amends. Mr. Burrell has been a transforming leader of these farmers seeking recompense and land. I noted to him that 30 years ago, one of our reports contained an early expose of this very problem. And he is now leading demonstrations in front of the U.S. Department of Agriculture frequently. In Boston, right next to Fenway Park, we gathered with members of the neighborhood at a news conference. The issue was a forthcoming demand by the Boston tax socks, shall we call them, that some $300 million in tax monies be used to help build a new ballpark with nice skyboxes nearby. The neighborhood groups, disturbed by the diversion of tax dollars from neglected needs of the city and its people, wondered why renovation of this historic park was not wiser than demolition. Did not the Red Sox learn from the experience of the New England Patriots? You know where I'm coming from, huh? That football team who traveled to Hartford on an ocean of corporate welfare subsidies, $500 million, compliments of the Republican governor and the Democratic-controlled legislature, with virtually no hearings. And everybody thought it was a done deal, that the New England Patriots were going to have a stadium with skyboxes, if they're empty, guaranteed by Connecticut's taxpayers. Pretty good deal. But you know what happened? Spearheaded by the Green Party, which led a coalition that I was involved in, that brought together Greenwich, Connecticut stockbrokers and blue-collar workers in Willimantic and anti-tax waste conservatives, environmentalists and consumerists, that aroused a, shall we say, subdued press on this issue. And within 4 months, that agreement was taken apart, and the head of the Patriots came to Hartford to announce that he was rushing back to Boston to build a stadium with his own money for a change. Yes. Yes. A hand for the Connecticut Green Party. Oh, I might add, all the odds were stacked against that Green Party. The polls were 3-1 because they didn't have the information in favor of the stadium. All the politicians, all the media, and in 4 months, the Green Party won for the taxpayers of Connecticut. And a lesson that tax dollars should be used for serious purposes affecting human beings, not for corporate entertainment. Someone told me, you know, this is just like ancient Rome, the Roman Colosseum, you know. I said, oh no, there's one difference. At least they let the fans in free. In Montana and Idaho, we heard unassailable arguments that stopping the logging on national forests made superior environmental, economic, and job sense. Enjoy these forests now and for future generations rather than destroy them for a mere 3% of the nation's annual timber harvest and $1.2 billion of annual taxpayer subsidies to the timber barons. As our great environmentalist, David Brower, told us at his home in California, he said, quote, let the forests breathe for us, unquote. And we should at this point, we should pay tribute to Barry Commoner, who led the Citizens Party in 1980 and plowed the ground. Another great environmentalist. In Hartford, Connecticut's grim inner city, amidst the fancy office buildings of the affluent insurance industry, we met with clergy from the churches and social activists and discussed what this so-called booming economy has left behind in misery, deprivation, and the resistance by neighborhood heroes. In Nebraska and Iowa, we learned about the shocking crisis of much rural farm country where small ranchers and farmers, despite working from dawn to dusk, cannot make a living. They are being mercilessly squeezed by big buyers and big sellers who are relentlessly driving toward an industrialized corporate contract agriculture mutated by genetic engineering. In Hawaii, that was an interesting one in Hawaii. We visited one of the early legal plots in the United States to grow industrial hemp. Yes, yes. And it was a bizarre medieval experience. Here's this 5,000-year-old plant with 50,000 uses, from textiles to paper to fiber to fuel, you name it, medicines, lubricants, cosmetics. Here is this 5,000-year-old plant, was being planted in a fraction of an acre, surrounded by a barbed wire fence, with saturation giant night lights. I didn't see any bloodhounds around. And this little plant was surrounded by another giant fence, and it was staffed by one biologist who had a wry way about himself. He mentioned that a couple nights ago some birds flew over the fence and satisfied themselves with some hemp seeds. He had to file that report with the government, of course. We've had a petition before the DEA to get industrial hemp off the prescribed list, and it's about time the farmers and the environmentalists and this country's interest in energy independence be respected by allowing the growth of industrial hemp. Thank you. In West Virginia, the misbehavior of King Coal is painfully visible. Some coal companies think nothing of blowing off the tops of mountains with the rubble damming the streams for tens of miles downstream and undermining these impoverished communities. There hasn't been much objection from the Clinton-Gore administration about this at all. Unfortunately, this is the kind of message the people of Appalachia have learned to endure, a message of indifference.
which has only been changed by civic action to give the workers in the coal mines compensation for black lung disease starting back in the late 60s, and a modicum of safety standards and health standards to curtail coal dust. That started with the citizen movement, and then the government reacted. From Minnesota, my vice presidential running mate, Winona LaDuke. Winona LaDuke and I called a conference of tribal leaders about the need for our government to respect their treaties, end the budgetary and other discrimination in the health and education areas against some of the poorest areas in our country, and this is long overdue. Around the country, from Delaware to Kentucky to Oregon to Minnesota, we joined with students deeply involved with the anti-sweatshop movement and with workers. And with workers who have lost their jobs to these sweatshops abroad. We surveyed and confirmed the need for modern public transit, really modern public transit, and the wonderful new technologies that community groups were demanding to enable low-income people and disabled people to get to work and to relieve the enormous time wasted in choking bumper-to-bumper traffic. We spoke from nurses from coast to coast about furthering their leading role with other patient rights groups in advancing the well-being of patients, the quality of health care, and first and foremost, now, universal health care for everyone in this country. And by the way, a tip of the hat to the California Nurses Association. The union that sets standards for unions everywhere. And we're so proud to receive the first union endorsement from the California Nurses Association. Just last year, they got 5 bills through Sacramento helping the health and safety of patient rights. I mean, there's a union who knows where its priorities are. How uplifting were our conversations with peace and nuclear arms reduction groups all over the country, whose members, you've seen many of them, they come across this way. They look sagacious, experienced, and they've had years behind them. Determined, sagacious, and experienced veterans of waging peace. Men and women whose concern is first and foremost for the 7 generations ahead. They set a new standard for grandparenting, a new standard. We should recall in a parochial note that the nuclear freeze movement began in New England, in town meetings in New England. It began with citizen groups. Around the country, we saw struggling small businesses, the Main Street core of their community, slipping behind the onslaught of the Walmarts and other giant chains that have privileges not available to your local corner merchant. We met with volunteers and donors at receptions filled with civic activists, excited over the premises and promises of an expanded Green Party. You know, how do you get a majority party in this country? Here's a simple formula. It takes about 1 million Americans pledging 100 volunteer hours a year, raising $100 a year, going forward with a deep, profound agenda that's congenial to millions of Americans, and we will establish a majority political party before you know it. Go we go, 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 go we go. Now comes the essence of what we're all about. I hope you have enough voice left. You'll know that I've said a progressive political party is most authentic when it connects with or arises from citizen movements and does not forget where it's coming from or its reason for being. Major changes for the betterment of human beings start with major changes of direction. Such changes start with small steps taken by each individual and their community together with other individuals. And these small steps evolve into ever larger steps, which are thereby more tested and sure-footed. I have here the Constitution of the United States, the preamble. And you'll remember the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance in this country ends with the phrase, with liberty and justice for all. Not with liberty and justice for a few, not with liberty and justice for corporations, not with liberty and justice for some. They said it just the way we have to pledge it, with liberty and justice for all. The Constitution's preamble, right here, those of you who want to reread it, it starts out this way. Think of the timeliness of the language, if you will. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. That's the quote. Now remember, they didn't say we the corporations, did they? They said we the people. And so, let's start the countdown. And let's get your response. And get it in a way where you really mean it. And millions of Americans whom you will reach, millions of Americans who are watching this Green Party convention will respond to, because it resonates with their deepest impulses for a better life for all. Who will achieve the independence of our elections from the predatory torrent of corporate and other special interest cash by financing public elections with public money? This will remove roadblocks to endless injustices that our country should be ready to prevent and diminish. This is an issue that cuts across almost all our other causes, whether it's universal health care, policies for our children, and other varieties of freedom that involve the fulfillment of human possibilities. Who will repeal the restrictive labor laws such as Taft-Hartley, which fuel the obstruction of trade union organizing for tens of millions of American workers who do not earn a livable wage and who are part of a declining level of desperate humanity in this country? Who will provide adequate budgets and the willpower for enforcing and strengthening the environmental, consumer health safety protections, and job safety laws against corporate crime, fraud, abuse, and negligence that is so often reported in the mainstream media, but alas, to little effect? Who? Who will end hundreds of billions of dollars of corporate welfare, the so familiar subsidies, giveaways, and bailouts, so that these monies can be meet the real needs of the American people? Who will discover and publicize the small and medium-sized businesses as those in the social venture network and other places that believe and are acting on sustainable economic principles like the Interface Corporation in Atlanta, Georgia. These are the businesses that put the lie to big business, who are constantly saying they don't know how to produce the technology for a sustainable economy. Who will allow our rich country to become a society at long last, after decades of broken promises, to end once and for all the curse of poverty? Who will, at long last, seriously initiate the transformations of our energy economy to renewable solar energy and energy efficiency? Some of these solar energy techniques have been around for centuries. Who will advance the appropriate technologies that redefine efficiency and productivity as if consumers, environment, workers, and all other human beings mattered? Who will elevate the many civil servants in our own federal government above the demeaning stereotypes that politicians have pasted on them, and liberate their own knowledge, their own insights, and their own imagination to make our government a wondrous servant of our highest promises? Who will assure these civil servants, they include physicians in the Food and Drug Administration, engineers, scientists, lawyers, cost analysts, procurement managers, and others, who will assure them that they will have a place to work where they can bring their conscience to work and their ethics to work every day? Who will establish our own media, our own television, radio, and cable networks as a functioning and deliberative democracy desires, needs? Who? Who will reserve part of our public airwaves, which the people own in the first place, for programming that reflects our solutions, our cultures, our sense of the heroic, and the many models of little-known success that need to be publicized and emulated and applied? Who can lift the horizons of the pursuit of happiness in our society through the pursuit of justice, so that bigotry, discrimination, and virulent intolerance recede toward oblivion? Who will expand the definition of national security and national purpose to show how, with reasonable amounts of knowledge, resources, and goodwill, we can rapidly begin to defeat the global scourges of poverty, contagious disease, illiteracy, lack of shelter, environmental devastation, and also to recognize and liberate the genius of third world peoples to help their potential to flower? Who? One only can refer to people like Paulo Freire, the great Brazilian educator, who taught illiterate peasants how to read in a few weeks with no fancy materials. We can only recall the great people's architect Hassan Fathy of Egypt, who taught the impoverished peasants of Egypt how to build homes, some of them elegantly simple and beautiful from the soil under their feet. The homelessness problem is massive in the third world. We can only recall the great success of the Grameen Bank and the microcredit that gave tens of thousands of women and others a chance through small loans to start their own businesses. Let's focus not just on our own genius. Let's focus on the enormous genius of third world peoples which have been suppressed. Isn't it? And isn't it time? Isn't it about time that the government stops supporting dictators and oligarchies with our tax monies, with our munitions, with our perverted diplomacy? Isn't it time that our government takes a cue from numerous studies and civic models from here overseas and advances foreign policies that support the peasants and the workers for a change? Don't we? Do we want to say to the 70 million Americans who do not vote for many good reasons sometimes? They think their vote doesn't count. They think that they don't want to legitimize the process. Do we want to say to those 70 million non-voters that the Greens want you, they want you to help them build a new beginning, because the Greens will give you no excuses for any further abdication of your civic duty to join us and help build a great society? You know, we go around exhorting our petitioners to get us on the ballot over these huge hurdles constructed by the Republican Democratic parties to exclude competition. They have to ask whether the person in the mall or down the street or at the health food store or in front of a church is a registered voter. Because if they're not a registered voter, the signature is not verified. But I think we have to talk to non-voters, to seek out non-voters. Maybe some of you can discern them after a while. To seek out non-voters and to register them and to expand the efforts all over college campuses and union halls and church basements to register to vote. Now, if you'll indulge me for just a few more minutes, I have a message for some special constituents. To the contented classes of America, which I will define as the top 5% in income in our country. The contented classes, I ask, is your choice only to exit from the scene of problems, or is it also to add your voice? If you don't like the quality of drinking water in your community, you've got the means to buy bottled water. If you don't like the situation in the public schools in your city, you can just haul off and move to a more pleasant community. If you don't like a lot of things, this country gives you the opportunity to exit what you don't like. That's being a quitter. Because you among the contented classes are the people of influence, of contacts, who get their calls returned. You are the citizens who can give voice to the powerless and the beleaguered to improve their conditions. It isn't that they don't have voice. You go into the worst and poorest areas in our country. There's plenty of voice. It's just that nobody's hearing it. Nobody's listening to it. And the contented classes can amplify those voices. And I'll give you an example. My classmates at Princeton University, Princeton class of 1955, and Harvard Law School, class of 58, have chosen to voice, not just to exit. Over 10 years ago, our Princeton class established a Center for Civic Leadership to place undergraduates in dozens of civic organizations dedicated strictly to systematic change. The belief is that a society that has more justice is a society that needs less charity. This alumni center is also pursuing a major effort to reorder our public health budget and priorities so a major assault be conducted on global tuberculosis. In 1993, members of my law school class of 1958, And let me tell you, this class has more than its share of corporate lawyers. It established the Appleseed Foundation that organizes state-based centers for law and justice. Over a dozen of these centers are underway in a dozen states, and more are on the way. And their purpose is to further systemic approaches to systemic injustices. How many other alumni classes of some 30 years out or more around the country's universities and colleges, who also produce the contented classes, can develop their own systemic initiatives for building democracy and justice? Well, I'll tell you, you'll never hear support for these kinds of efforts as a routine part of a political campaign by the Republican Democratic parties. But you'll hear it from the Green Party candidate week after week. Because a progressive political movement highlights civic energies which are dedicated to the proposition that a society which has more justice is a society that can realistically pursue happiness. And one might say the pursuit of happiness involves a lot of the pursuit of justice as well. Too many good people in this country are walking around with invisible chains, if not golden handcuffs, which restrict their contributions to the good life for themselves and their fellow citizens. A progressive political movement liberates their wisdom, judgment, experience, creativity, and idealism. By the way, all those traits are not tested by standardized educational tests. To millions of retired Americans with such capacities, a progressive political movement will offer endless opportunities for community-based patriotism to blossom. We need you, after you retire, to start a new stage in your life, to start a fresh contribution to a fresh, progressive political campaign. There is no reason why our society has to be organized in such a way as to make older people feel that they're out of sight and they're out of mind and they're not wanted anymore and they're not needed anymore. Well, the Progressive Green Party movement wants you, needs you, and will be with you. Now, by the way, by now you know I'm not using the teleprompter. I love these politicians. They go like this, you know, hoping that the guy who controls it keeps it moving, huh? Otherwise they'll lose half a page. Now, to the youth of America, I say beware of being trivialized by the commercial corporate culture that tempts you daily, tempts you hourly. I hear you saying often that you're not turned on to politics. Well, let me bring to bear the lessons of history. If you're not turned on to politics, the lesson of history is that politics will turn on you. The fact that we have so many inequities and inequalities, the fact that there's so much corporate regulation over our lives. I mean, just look, how many times every day do the corporations regulate you compared to government? The corporations also regulate government to regulate you. But apart from that, you go to an HMO and they tell you, no, yes, no CAT scan, this, tying the hands of the doctors and the nurses. You go to an auto insurance company, it doesn't even seem to want to pay very often, and they touch on this fine print, you know. which is the exclusions or deductions. And you go into one area or another, your credit, your genes, your privacy. Increasingly, your voice as a citizen is being regulated in so many complex and insidious ways by too much power in the hands of too few corporations. Well, democracy doesn't respond well to cynicism. It doesn't respond well to having citizens drop out on it. It responds to hands-on participation and to energized imagination. Because that's its essence. We need the young people of America to move into leadership positions, to shape their future, their own future, as part of this campaign for a just society. We're going to ask the young people of America, who among you are going to be the leaders in saving the equatorial forests? Who among you are going to be the leaders in preserving our oceans? Who among you are going to be the leaders in abolishing poverty, in nurturing childhood, in injecting matters of the spirit and well-being to dilute the crass commercialism that is being imposed on us? Who among you will develop a tax system that's equitable and that can meet the needs of the people? Who among you will be the geniuses who will find ways to make bureaucracies, public and private, more accountable? Who among you will participate in the growing global movement that says the people of this world will plan the future of this world, not global corporations and their corrupt governments? Two premises are basic to this political campaign I want to share with you briefly. First, that a basic function of leadership is to produce more leaders, not more followers. You've got to go right out the country that way. This country's in desperate need of leaders of all kinds. And we can all be leaders in our own right, in our own craft, in our own talent, in our own sense of urgency, in our own locality. We can play on many civic stages, but we can all be leaders. The second premise is that this political movement is first and foremost a movement of thought, not a movement of belief. There's nothing wrong with beliefs, but it's a pretty good idea to have them preceded by thoughts. Followed by action. By debating in the next 4 months, by phoning, by emailing, by marching, you can reach millions of people. You go back to your communities, your counties, and your states, and your region, and expand what this effort is all about in the imaginations of people who too long have been betrayed by broken promises and by defaulting interests. We know that the people will respond to a new political start because this is a political start of the people, that thousands of people can, in coming years, become local, state, and federal candidates for Green Party offices. You can build this party as you join it and participate in it. You can build this party as a fresh green plant, pushing up between the two fossil parties that have no grassroots base at all. Parties built on business cash, driven by business cash, fueled by business cash, animated by business cash, so that they are more and more remote from the American people and engage mostly in campaigning against one another through 30-second electronic ad combat and exclusive presidential debates. Are we going to get on these debates or aren't we? Yours is the roar of fairness of the American people, whose polls show that they too want a four-way presidential debate. And it's just not because they want a four-way presidential debate. Not just because they don't want to fall asleep watching the drab debate the dreary. They want to expand the agenda, to highlight issues that the two parties are systematically altogether ignoring. And so spread the word. Let's get on those debates. Let's expand the number of debates. Let's have other major media have the guts to break out of this two-party cul-de-sac. This two-party cul-de-sac that degrades what a presidential election should be all about. Should be a wondrous opportunity for civic expression, participation, voice, back and forth. We've got to move for that. That's one of the great contributions we can make this year. And after November, the Green Party will be an ever-burgeoning asset of democratic forces and democratic talent. And remember, there are people out there wondering how they can get in touch with us. You know how that you can get in touch with our campaign. And others around the country who want to get in touch with us can only log in to votenader.org with their volunteer efforts, their skills, their talents, their ideas, and yes, their only individual contributions, because we are not taking PAC money or using SUP money. What about those that don't have a computer? Oh, well, I've got to respond to that one. Yes, that's right. Yes, well, of course, statehood for District of Columbia is on the Green Party ballot. Now, I was just asked, what about the address for people who don't use computers? There's still some people left who don't use computers, including myself. The address is Nader 2000, P.O. Box 18002, Washington, D.C. 20036. And the phone number is 202-265-4000. We all have to stay in touch with one another. And lastly, with a new progressive movement, we, the people, have the ability to vastly improve our lives and to help shape the world's course to one of justice and peace for years to come. That is not only our solemn opportunity that we have helped build, it's also our solemn duty and our solemn pledge to future generations, the posterity that must inherit our utmost civic energies and humane policies. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Go we go. 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 Go we go.
Our All Politics Day on C-SPAN continues in a moment. We're using this 4th of July to look at presidential campaign politics. Next, we'll show you what goes on at the campaigns of the major party candidates. First, Governor Bush's campaign in Austin, Texas. Then a C-SPAN crew follows Vice President Gore's press secretary and several journalists on the campaign trail. That's followed by a discussion of third-party politics with Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura and former Clinton White House Chief of Staff Leon Panetta. Later, former President George Bush at a Republican fundraising dinner.
Catch Road to the White House Sunday nights when we go behind the scenes with the contenders, their campaign staffs, and the media.
Give you the scoop of all scoops, sure.
Road to the White House, C-SPAN's weekly look at the candidates and issues shaping the presidential race.
I commend it to you.
Sunday nights at 6:30 and 9:30 Eastern and Pacific, right here on C-SPAN.
To mark this year's presidential campaign coverage, C-SPAN has baseball caps and T-shirts. Our Campaign 2000 navy blue baseball caps are $12.95, and the 100% cotton T-shirts are $9.95, plus shipping and handling. To order, call toll-free weekdays until 6 p.m. Eastern by dialing 1-877 on C-SPAN, or go online anytime to cspan.org/shop. C-SPAN's All Politics 4th of July weekend continues now with a behind-the-scenes look at both the Bush and Gore campaigns. We begin with Governor Bush's campaign in Austin, Texas. You'll hear from Karl Rove, a key advisor to Governor Bush, during this 55-minute program.
Karl Rove, when did you first meet George W. Bush?
I met him around Thanksgiving of 1973, so a long time ago.
What led to the meeting?
I was working for his dad at the Republican National Committee, and the governor was at Harvard Business School, and Chairman Bush, now President Bush, but Chairman Bush's chief of staff, a fellow named Tom Lass, said, Mr. Bush has to be down at the White House, and I'm going to be out in a meeting, and George W. Bush is going to arrive from Harvard. It's your job to give him the keys to the family car. And so when he appeared at the front desk, I trotted down and handed him the keys to the family car, which was a purple Gremlin with Levi interior, which for a guy who drove a red sports car was not very impressive, as I recall.
Do you remember anything else about that meeting?
Yeah. He walked in, cowboy boots, air flight jacket, exuding, great smile, exuding total charisma. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's, as long as I've known him, he's a guy who, it's a person who, relates well to people, and immediately people feel an affinity towards.
Whatever happened to that Gremlin?
I don't know. He drove it for a brief time while he was in town, but that was President Bush's car when he was chairman of the Republican National Committee, a little purple Gremlin with Levi interior. So.
You grew up in Colorado?
Colorado, Nevada, Utah, small towns in the West.
What did your parents do?
My dad was a hard rock geologist, minerals, and my mom was sort of a, store clerk, store manager, Avon sales lady, you name it.
Brothers, sisters?
Two of each. Older brother and a younger brother and two younger sisters. All vastly apolitical, I must add.
Family still out west?
Yeah. A brother lives in Oregon, brother and sister in Reno, Nevada, sister in Denver, and my father now is retired and lives in Palm Springs.
During the early and mid-'70s, you were involved in politics as a member of the College Republicans, and there's a story about you going out to Illinois and breaking into or stealing some letterhead. What's the story?
Well, the story is not very attractive. I was 19, and I was working in a campaign in Illinois, And Alan J. Dixon was running for state treasurer, and he sent out an invitation to his campaign headquarters opening to the Gold Coast, which was the very exclusive area near downtown Chicago. Sent out invitations to Democrats there to come to his headquarters opening. And one of our volunteers, very attractive young lady of 18, her parents got one. So we took the invitation, cut it up, pasted it on a piece of paper, and printed off fake invitations to the headquarters opening and distributed them in the Bowery and the Drunk Row near Skid Row near downtown Chicago. And so, of course, Alan J. Dixon's headquarters was swamped by hundreds of extremely strange people not from the Gold Coast of Chicago, demanding, the free food and beer that it was advertised in the flyer that we distributed. Not a very attractive thing. Years later, ironically enough, I was up for confirmation in the U.S. Senate in 1991 or 92 to the Board for International Broadcasting that oversee Radio Liberty and Radio Free Europe, and Alan J. Dixon was in the U.S. Senate, and the issue was raised. He had a good laugh about it and wrote a very nice note accepting an apology for it and voted for my confirmation of the board, which I deeply appreciated.
Why did a 19-year-old college Republican do that?
Young and foolish, that's why. Stupid. Little prank, but it was not very attractive.
How did you end up in Texas?
Married a Texan, and I was living and working in Richmond, Virginia, and